Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the FlyTimes 85, and one of the first things I kind of thought of was Flywoo's already got an 85mm that runs 2S, the FlyLens 85, which this was one, if you haven't seen it, it's one I enjoy. I still have it, I kept it around. It's one I fly just kind of casually whenever I want to just fly for no review purposes. I'll put the link to the review of this one down in the video description, but another differentiating factor outside of the obvious prop guard difference is the FlyTimes 85 is $10 cheaper. There is one other thing that I kind of thought about that I thought I should mention right away is that sometimes people ask me about this one and then taking off the prop guards, and we'll discuss that in more detail, but this might give us the opportunity to have this without the prop guards a little bit simpler, without all the DIY stuff, but we could talk about that later in the video. The FlyTimes 85 features the Flywoo Goku F405 HD flight controller all-in-one. It is 1 and 2S with the USB port right there. With Robo 1003 14,800 kV motors. And on those motors are 2-inch Gemfan bi-bladed props. Of course, it has the naked or light 03, as I mentioned previously. The camera has also been decased. It has this metal bracket that allows you to mount in here. The camera is also on gummies, so it has some vibration dampening built into it. And if you're familiar with the FlyLens 85, you'll notice that this mount for the 03 is different on the FlyTimes 85. Of course, these corner pieces that hold the TPU prop protection are probably aluminum. And this, of course, is TPU. And that TPU protection does come in several different colors. Of the colors that I have here, we've got black, which you can kind of see through there. We've got red, we've got a yellow or a bright green, and then also pink. But mine has purple. Our battery pigtail does have a capacitor out here on the end, and the battery connection is an XT30. And just like with the FlyLens, due to this top carbon fiber piece, our camera angle is limited. On the FlyLens 85, I have it maxed out with that bracket all the way against the carbon fiber top piece. And again, just like the FlyLens, the FlyTimes has these little TPU prints to hold our motor wires down, as well as for our receiver back here, this T-bar mount, as well as our 03 antennas, all TPU printed. The battery holster, as you can see there, is the 750 milliamp capacity battery should go in here, but we have another one that was also sent along at 550, but I did not use the 550 holder because I found that, well, the batteries I'll show you all fit in here. This is the 550 holder, and they did change this mount a little bit to where you have this little foot that kind of locks into place. The old version, it just had the twist style here. Now with this other foot, it does lock into place a little bit better if that were to be an issue for someone. Carbon fiber is just a touch over 2 millimeters thick. If you wanted to know, the metal arm looks to be 3 millimeters thick and about 2.5 millimeters, I guess that's also thick, top to bottom, vertical. And even though that's called FlyTimes 85, it's 93 millimeters. Motor post to motor post, which is pretty much what the FlyLens was too. The FlyTimes 85 weighs just a touch over 72 grams. The FlyLens 85 weighs just a touch over 79 grams. I use primarily these batteries to fly the FlyTimes 85. Probably mostly use this R-Line 550, and these two do fit in the 750 battery holster. This one, while it fits, it's a little bit loose for my comfort, and that's where you'll need to use the 550 holster, is for those G&B 550 batteries, and probably others that are about the same size. With the 850, it weighs 111.86 grams. With the Tattoo R-Line 550, it weighs 103.46 grams. And with the G&B 550, it weighs 100.79 grams. It does come with an extra set of props. That 550 battery mount that I've already talked about a couple of times. 2 more foam pads that go here on the bottom. A zip tie, which we should probably use to secure down our battery lead right to this arm. I did get an extra TPU prop protection, but I can't guarantee that it'll come with black or what have you. It's just an extra one. Also another battery holder that is for a 1000 milliamp 2S battery, but I didn't test any because I don't have any of that size. We get an extra set of those prints that keep the motor wires connected to the carbon. We also get what I would call a repair kit. It's got various screws in here. As you can see, they're all labeled neatly. This is something Flywoo does oftentimes, is give you all sorts of extra screws if they were to loosen up and come out. Get a small screwdriver and hex driver. Well, I'd call this an Allen key. We get a support card. We get a little manual for the all-in-one flight controller. 2 Flywoo stickers. And a full sheet of fun Flywoo sticker. So take note of those trees, and you can probably hear it a little bit in the flight audio. Flight audio is not standard with any of the quads or the goggles. I'm actually using a old cell phone to record flight footage or flight audio, and then I bring it into post. But I wanted to draw attention to the moving of those leaves on those trees because, yeah, we got wind. 15 to 25 mile-an-hour wind, and that was something that I recall, although I didn't go back and watch my FlyLens 85 review, is I was also surprised by how it handled wind. Now we're starting off outside, and if you look at the Flywoo website on the FlyTimes 85, they position it kind of as a cinematic sort of quad, and kind of an indoor sort of quad, and it just seems like we've got two quads, the FlyTimes 85 and the FlyLens 85, which are competing with each other within the same company or brand, which seemed kind of curious to me from a business perspective. But there are some differences that we as consumers can look at and possibly take advantage. I'm not going to show you the entire slower flights. We're going to show those because that's kind of the design mantra of the quad. But to report some flight times, let's see my notes here. On the 850, I got about 6 minutes and 15 seconds. I had a couple of flights come in higher than that. That's the Tattoo R-Line battery. And on the 550, again, the Tattoo R-Line, I got about 4 minutes and 30 seconds. That's the slower, flatter flight like we're looking at now. On the 550, the red labeled 550, I got less fly time than I did with the Tattoo 550 at 4 minutes and 10 seconds. It's kind of on average. Normally what I do is I run 3 batteries of each kind, and then I kind of average out those times because, you know, not all batteries have been exactly treated the exact same. It's probably worth noting on the G&B red battery that I've also probably had more flights on that battery than I have on the Tattoo R-Line batteries. Let's go ahead and switch over. We got to see the VTX recording and the goggle DVR recording. Let's switch over to an indoor slower flight. So I'm going to have the flight audio a bit lower because these can be kind of loud, but slow with these bi-blades. It's not terrible loud, and I would say it's less loud than anything else of its same size that's running 4S for sure. Also, keeping the weight down seems to have an impact on what's audible to us as well. It might not change the prop noise profile, but as far as my perception, as how I hear things, that's something that I've noticed. So as I already kind of said, the Flywoo website looks at the FlyTimes 85 as kind of a new sort of cinematic style. And I don't think too many of us would be too confused about how much prop protection you actually get out of that TPU. But it is there. It's going to protect you from those very slow, very minor bumps. I definitely wouldn't suggest flying around people with that sort of prop protection. It's just so thin that, you know, it can easily get tangled up in hair. It can bump into an animal. The prop can definitely get in there. So in order to do this sort of design, they went with the aluminum, or what I perceive as aluminum arm extensions to kind of mount to that TPU. And the TPU does screw onto those metal pieces with 2 screws in each corner, which we can look at closer as we get through the flights and back to the desk. Also, Flywoo, I forgot. Flywoo has launched, I think they're just launching them. I don't know. Maybe they sent it out just for good measure. But that gate there, they also have another gate that has LEDs. I, of course, would prefer LEDs. Who doesn't like some fun LEDs in their gates? But I've got a couple already. I guess I can't be too greedy. But, you know, hey, Flywoo, I sure would appreciate an LED cube gate. That cube gate is actually 5 independent gates, and then you just kind of Velcro them together. And the white pieces that you see at the top corners, the white part is actually the backing to the adhesive side of the Velcro. I left it on there because they send you a whole baggie of these like 2.5-inch Velcro strips, and I didn't need to use all of them, and I thought it was silly to pull the backing off of the sticky side of the Velcro, even though I don't know. It seems like I could use those to mount to walls, like in the unfinished part of the basement or something like that. So it felt wasteful to peel the backing off or to double up, because that's what I did with the other Velcro was I put the adhesive backings together because I didn't get the sticky stuff all over my fingers. But that's enough of the indoor flight. You get the picture there, and you see that when we go around the island, the O3 does not like that super bright spot around the island. That was always like taking a blind corner. You just kind of held your sticks and hoped you got all the way around. But let's move into what I like to do, which is to fly these things against their design principles and make it go faster and, well, at least as fast as I can make it go. You may notice that the battery, it always says battery low, and the average cell voltage is at like a 408, maybe 410 in these flights. That's pretty normal with these HD systems. You know, you plug them in, they have their own power needs. It's far greater than the good old analog VTXs. And by the time I get my camera set up and cameras recording and get sat down and all the things that I do in order to be able to make the flight footage, it consumes some of the power. So yes, the batteries were fully charged. So except for I don't charge multi-cell batteries high voltage, and I know that's going to draw some ears. Though at a time years ago, and I don't know, maybe it's perfectly fine and perfectly safe to charge multi-cell batteries to high volt nowadays because they've changed the chemistry or something. I don't think they have, because when they launched years ago, maybe it was like 6-7 years ago, when you high volt charged HV or high volt batteries, they just didn't last very long. They performed great for a while, and then they just fell off a cliff. Oh, I missed that chimney dive. Dang it, but I'll try again. But so since that time, because I went through about 15 batteries, which is, you know, more than $100 easy, and all the batteries were like poo-poo after, you know, 40, 50 flights, whatever it was. I stopped high volt charging all my multi-cell batteries. I do high volt charge my 1S batteries though, so that's the one battery caveat that might be within this grouping. But Flywheel always does a nice job with the PID tune. There's always a bit of technique in making sure you don't bring out prop wash. I think if there was one little split S Immelman thingy that I did around the tree down there that had a little bit of prop wash, or it will be as it comes up here. You know, I got on the throttle too late. I came in too flat. That to me is a micro thing, because you see that in most of them. Even when they feel really good on the sticks and they have a really good PID tune, there it was. I just saw it. That there's a little bit of technique in that nut. You know, pulling up and coming into flat and not having enough throttle. It's a micro thing, I think, but maybe it's not specific to micros. But I see it on a lot of different quads, and that is why I wanted to show this flight. It's the one primary impact that I had with this, is that I hit the top edge of the cabana there, and then we fell down, and I think we made contact on the same side, and that did bend one of those metal mounting arms down. And even though, as you see here, I turtle mode and take off, this is the risk that I like to take in flying these things, and a little bit of a durability test. Because it was sent by the manufacturer for review, I didn't have to pay for it, so I can take risks and then pass on my experience to anybody who wants to watch. So I had that impact, and that was by far the greatest impact I had. But you know, the damage wasn't permanent, but we could talk more about it at the desk. And yeah, I did fly a little bit too long. I know 257 on the clock, but I would say 250, 255. So here is a picture of the post-flight that I actually just showed you, and you can see the arm that's on our left-hand side. Hopefully you can see that, is that it's bent down. Now, obviously, I did my level best to level that or bring that back up into shape. And I don't think you can tell from the picture, but when that arm bent down, this was very loose. It's pretty taut now. I would say it's probably as taut as the rest of this. Of course, I had some bumps in the house, and I had some other crashes that were, I would call them fairly minor. Maybe landing and I just came in a little hot and tipped over, or I tumbled in the grass because I got too low or something like that. But that one, I think we did hit here, and then when we tumbled down to the ground, we also hit one of those two spots, and it bent that down. That's my one concern whenever we're using metal is, you know, if it gets bent, can we bend it back? And you don't want to just be leveraging out here, because then you're really putting a lot of strain on the carbon on the end and your screws. When I was doing it, I was trying to be very careful. I don't know if I can do it on camera very well. So I was trying to pinch this top piece down to the motor while I had my fingers kind of out in this area trying to flex it up until I got it taut. again, and then I was kind of eyeballing it. But and obviously I've straightened it out. I think I don't know, within 90% of where it was at least. But that was the one big impact and why I wanted to show that flight. There's a zip tie right here that secures our camera down here. And speaking of the camera, that's the one other risk with going with either really one of these. They did not include with the FlyTimes 85 this TPU protection, which I did leave on for the weights. That weighs about 2 grams. So if you're comparing weights and you don't want to have that on there, take that off. But you know, this camera doesn't have any of that DJI housing. So in crashes, it's more exposed because it is out front, and it doesn't have that TPU protection built into it. That's the one downside to all this. Now, as far as going naked or light on your O3s, I'm just not hearing or reading much about these getting damaged. I think they're pretty daggum hardy. And while we're looking down here, the difference in how they mount is pretty apparent there. This goes up to a standoff that goes through this prop protection. So you could technically slide this prop protection off. You know, you have to unscrew all this stuff, slide it off, and then put your VTX back up there. And I don't think you would have to take your O3 out of here. I think you'd maybe have to go diagonally or sideways to get it back up through there. But I think it should be fine if you wanted to take this prop protection off. But if you didn't already have one, and you wanted one with, you know, all things considered with the naked camera up front and your naked or light O3 exposed down here, and you were fine with that, but you still wanted to take off the prop protection, in both cases, this one's going to be easier to do that. And like I said, it's $10 less. So those might be not just differentiating factors, but also a factor in if you're looking to buy these or one of these, why you may want one over another. Of course, if you want the prop protection on there and you don't want the absolute lowest wind profile, I would still suggest getting the FlyLens 85. Like I said, I've enjoyed this ever since the review. I'll take it out and just fly a couple of packs just for my own fun and enjoyment. I think they came out with this for the most extreme need when it comes to either being very, very light inside, so you save, what was it, 4 or 5 grams, as well as having a very low wind profile. You know, the TPU protection provides some protection, but just having that stringer across the front is obviously not going to catch the wind like our prop protection on the FlyLens or others might. So again, those are a little bit different. I kind of talked earlier about how the frame was the same. It's not technically the same. It's just when I look at it, it's very, very similar. But I think I need to highlight the fact that was a little bit tongue-in-cheek. You know, they're very similar quads. Maybe you want to buy this frame and build it up yourself. Maybe. I don't know. You can see we've got the extra mounting screw out there for the case of the naked or light VTX down over here, which we just don't have that on this side. And then, of course, they've got supporting arms between front to back, which, again, I think if you're taking this stuff off, that's pretty good design choice. One thing, if you're thinking about getting this kit and not using the arm protection, is do note that these motor screws might be a touch long. You don't want them going through and touching your motor wires, the windings, excuse me. And you can see that this piece lays on top of the carbon. So those motor wires or motor mounting screws, maybe, I don't think so, just because looking at the thickness here, and I can't see the motor, the screw mounts poking through. I don't think they will be, but be careful there. You know, eyeball that pretty closely if you're building this up, to make sure that the screws aren't going all the way through and touching the windings on the motors, because that will surely damage and potentially destroy the motor right away. Let's take a look at the bottom. Of course, originally when Flywoo sent this one, I had to make a naked O3 and do that myself. Obviously, they did a cleaner job than I did, because this one doesn't even actually sit all that flat, whereas this one sits perfectly flat. So, yeah, you know, for me and what I would do, I've already kind of given my recommendation. If you miss this, if you don't need the absolutely lowest possible profile quad as far as having prop protection, but you still want the prop protection, this looks to be a good solution. It flies well in the various formats that I showed you. There is no, well, without DIY, there is no ability to mount an external HD camera. And I would say for something 2-inch and 2S, as a general statement, you're wanting to go with something like the Peanut, the Caddx Peanut, I think it is. It's a super light HD capable external camera. Matter of fact, I think it doesn't even have a battery. It's just got a wire that you solder to your board. Another option would be potentially the older Insta360 Go, which was lighter than the Insta360 Go 2, but the Insta360 Go 2 is, I think, still lighter than like a naked GoPro. So you'd still have to do something with far as mounting. You have to print out a mount or something like that. But I think that's one of the things that, even though Flywoo positions this at the very least, they may do with this one as well, as filming quads, they don't have the option of doing an HD camera out of the box. You've got to DIY that together. Whereas this might be the more appealing frame if you want to build without prop protection versus this one, because you won't be utilizing the extra bits. Yeah, I mean, technically you could, but you don't need them if you go through this configuration, especially if you're building. So I think if you want a 2S 2-incher with an exposed camera, I say exposed because it's on top, it doesn't have the casing on it, and you want to fly 2-inch and 2S, and they're fun. I really enjoy them. I said it a few times. They're both really fun to fly. I've been flying this one casually on my own free time, and it's still held together great. Works great for me. But for me, what I would do now that I have this one is I would take the prop protection off and just fly it like a quad that doesn't have prop protection. But that's just me. I'm very biased into what I want. You tell me what options you think are the best options. If you are interested, I will put a link down in the video description that very well could be an affiliate link. But there'll also be other links to other shops. This has been out for a couple of weeks, I think. This one went from Cincinnati to Atlanta here in the U.S. I think it was 4 times. So it'd go to Cincinnati, sit for 3 or 4 days. Then it would go to Atlanta, sit for 3 or 4 days. Then it would go back to Cincinnati, 3 or 4 days, back to Atlanta. It did that for like 3 weeks or something before it finally made it to me. So that's the reason why this is so delayed. But I'll look around to see who's got this for sale. Whether I have an affiliate link with them doesn't matter, but I will link this one in the video description. I will put the link, as I mentioned previously in the video, to the review of the FlyLens 85 down in the video description as well. I think that was a fun video to make, at least. And that is the FlyTimes 85. I apologize if I refer to this more than once as the FlyLens 85. Those two they get mixed up in between my head and my tongue. So this video, even though it has a lot about the FlyLens 85, this is the FlyLens 85. This is the FlyTimes 85. I couldn't possibly say any more about these. I think I've been recording for 45 minutes. I'll have to chop this down. I'll put chapters. Hopefully I'll remember to do that down in the little scroll bar thing that YouTube provides. If you do have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise about the Flywoo FlyTimes 85 at $10 less than the FlyLens 85, let me know down in that comment section below. I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching.